These moments don't happen, but my sibling is here, it triggers that. You know, it triggered something that I know, there's still more work to be done.
They start to create situations that just want you to play the same role they used to, even if it's a role of an abuser, even if it's a role of a victim.
And it can be in different situations with that family member that really bring it out, which I'll share my personal experience shortly. Hi guys, welcome back to the New Earth. Really excited to share with you today's topic because once again it's a personal experience that we want to share with you.
Yeah, we have been kind of out of it for a couple of weeks and we really missed being able to speak and connect with you guys, and this is a beautiful opportunity to kind of start all over again, you know?
Yeah, recovering from what we've been recovering from the COVID, I think it is. So. But that's another story. We did a live on that recently, actually, which you can check it out. But today's topic, what we really want to discuss is the art of being in the present moment.
Yeah.
And can it be done with family? Now, I remember that proverb the monk was saying that, you know, you think you're enlightened, you know, try staying with your parents for a week. You know, you do all this work, maybe you're in this self-development world, maybe you've done therapy, maybe you've not done anything. Wherever you are, you may notice that you get triggered by the people around you, especially your family. It's like they know the buttons to press, you know? It's like this emotional monster comes out for a while and you get taken along and then you come out of it at the end going, what happened? And it can be in different situations with that family member that really bring it out, which I'll share my personal experience shortly.
Yeah, well, you know, as Alex said, that there is these buttons that the family pushes. Well, of course they know how to push them because the family members were the ones who installed them. And in the hindsight of it all, yes, being triggered by your family members is one of the most challenging experiences you can do. And it's just like Alex explained, you become overtaken by that pain body that keeps on reacting and reenacting that trauma that happened in childhood. And those relationships become the foundations of the relationships we have with ourselves and we have with other people. And, you know, we start to kind of replicate the same kind of scenarios, right? And as annoying as it is, every single time when we are in those situations, these are the moments of really getting to know ourselves better. It's like those triggers, when they're coming up and they're coming up for air, instead of judging those triggers and seeing them as something as a nuisance that we need to get rid of all the time. This is a beautiful opportunity because it's an opportunity for us to be more compassionate with ourselves and actually come towards that little boy, little girl that was hurt at the time and reliving the trauma and giving it the love and the compassion that that little person actually needs.
Yeah, it's like a bucket when you got all that trauma and abuse and pain all low down to that bucket, and you know, you put everything you can on top to make sure it doesn't come out, and then you're around these certain family members and you're triggered and it comes out, and rather than putting more anger and judgment and blame into that bucket, it's a time to go, you know what, take it easy on yourself and not to put more of that in. It is to be loving and kind to yourself. But when you are triggered in that moment, something else does take over, and it is very hard to be in that present moment, in that time, because the body takes over and it's like this mechanism comes in. It's like that trauma, it's abuse. And you know, I've got my sister staying here at the moment, and it's always an interesting experience because you know, I've done a lot of work on myself, but I also was apprehensive because I know she's not in this world of self-development, and she's takes a lot of what is in our childhood into where she brings into our space, and it could be my perception of it. It could also be our subconscious patterns, and it's funny how the dynamic plays out in the house. And you know, we're playing a game last night, and I felt my I think maybe it was like the worthlessness or something coming up of how I felt when I was a kid. And you're reminded more when you have your sibling there it could be parent, whoever it is, because they were there at that time. It's like that trauma is frozen in time, and then you're replicating it because they're sitting right there opposite you. And how they were then, you know, you're projecting onto them of who you think they are. They're doing the same to you, and you can't help but get into this pain body that comes out in this moment, and it just takes over. And then the worst side of you comes out, it's taken over. It's like a snowball effect. And then people notice it, and then you're defending the ego even more, and the trauma and the pain, and it becomes this sort of coming, you know, it becomes its own entity, and you can sort of observe it's happening, but this thing's taken over, and it's like you're in the back seat going, okay, let's see how this pans out. Never usually very well. And you go upstairs, usually sulking and by yourself, kind of, what the hell just happened there? Alex, I thought better of you, really. And I try to, you know, go, look, trauma, abuse, all that stuff that has happened, it's normal. I just hope she doesn't take it personally. I hope our kids don't take it personally. I'm having to apologize, you know, and just be real, you know, with the kids around, with Julia. Just because these moments don't happen, but my sibling is here, it triggers that. You know, it triggered something that I know, there's still more work to be done. So it's a, you know, it really is not to hide away from it, which I could have easily do and just run away into the man cave, but to actually face it and go, right, I want this out of me, whatever this is. And even speaking to my sister about a particular process called the Hoffman process that Julia's done before to deal with all of these things. And, you know, bringing it up that she, you know, is potentially up for doing it, which is quite a big deal because I've been bringing around this stuff for years. And to actually come to that place where she may go there, because I kind of want to wipe the slate clean. As in, I've sort of done the best I can to deal with the memories of who I was before that she's still associated with, and I don't associate with that guy anymore, but she does, and I want to associate up with her up here as well. So
you want to raise your vibration. You want to raise your experience together.
Yeah, I want her to be the best version of herself, so I can relate to that and build new memories with that family member, not who she thought I was, because her certainty of who she thought I was sometimes overtakes my certainty who I am now. So which means I need to fully, align to who I am now. What is the bits and pieces that I'm still holding on to in my past and the old programming. And it's like bringing that to healing, you know. And that's what she is reminding me of. And that's why, you know, I knew this was going to be a challenging time to bring my family member here. It's got nothing to do with my sister, by the way. She's a lovely, open-hearted, intelligent person. And it's very hard to let go of your old self, especially one that was so tied up in all of the madness. Because when you want to become a new person, when you want to break free from that abuse, from that pain, from the old behavior, it means disassociating to a point of a memory that everyone in the family holds of you, and you have to kind of break out of that tribe in order to step into your bigger self, which in the old days would mean death, you know, if you're out of your tribe. So it really is a courageous act to go after what you want and what you feel that you deserve and you're worthy of, even if your family may not think you are. I'm not saying my family does, but wherever you might be, to really claim what you feel like you truly deserve in this world. And it means going against your old program, going against your old narrative of what you thought you were. So it's constant work, and it just shows to us that, you know, there's more work to be done, and it's okay.
The number one pattern, the most common pattern when it comes to our relationships with our siblings, or just our relationships in general, is to project our feelings and our judgments and our ideas of how other people are supposed to be onto another person. So the reason why they say that our family members are our teachers, and they say, you know, we don't choose our family members, I beg to differ in that case, because they are actually our perfect teachers to show us exactly the moments where we need to give ourselves more love, where we need to be more compassionate and more loving with ourselves. So when we are assessing or describing an experience that we have with a family member, it changes completely the dynamic of it if we stop focusing on what the other person is doing and how they are doing and how they're behaving and how they're triggering, and focusing on our own experience of what it's like being a sister, what it's like being a brother, what is it like being a daughter. Who are we when we are in the experience of that particular role? So when we change it from the perspective of, you know, my brother and my sister is like this and like that, and she's triggering me, and that one is triggering me, and you're bringing it back and then saying, I am learning compassion when it comes to being a brother. I am learning what it's like being patient when it comes to being a sister. I'm learning what it's like to be unconditionally loving when it comes to being a daughter or being a wife or being a mother.
When you're in this place and you're triggered, what does that actually mean? You are shrunken yourself down to be the wounded child, and it's usually going back to when you're very young. And this person, as you said before, has become bigger because you're now fearful, projecting onto them that they are a threat.
Yes, exactly.
So as they're a threat, you are then become like our cookie chihuahua. You start to bite because you feel threatened. That family member, funnily enough, only ever sees you in that way. So they don't actually know who you are because all you're doing is playing out the old pattern of that trauma. And they very rarely see the glimpses of actually who you are. And it's very hard to then be who you truly are around them because all they know is what you show them. And vice versa.
So basically what is the innate need, especially when it comes to siblings, is subconsciously to bring you back to the point where it's comfortable. Bring you back to the same scenarios that have been played out over and over again. And when people haven't worked on themselves and they haven't done personal development, they start to create situations that just want you to play the same role they used to, even if it's a role of an abuser, even if it's a role of a victim, even if it's a role of a villain, the same thing as an abuser. But this is like, you know, this is what is comfortable for a lot of people. This is why you see family dynamics going from one to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation, because there hasn't been that release. There hasn't been that breakthrough in stepping out of the family dynamics, because as much as they might be abusive, it is comfortable. So this is why we want to bring it back to the art of being present and being in the moment. Because why we said it's so challenging to do so when we are with family members is because more often than not, we are in the past when we are with our family members. We are, you know, even if it's in the positive environment, we're reliving the positive moments and having to go back to the moments of, you know, the closeness and union. It still is something that has happened in the past, right? The resourceful state is the state of the present. The most creative state is when you can find yourself being authentically you, unapologetically you, no matter who you're with. And this is why, as I said, you know, family members were chosen by us, by our souls, particularly and specifically, so that they may not only bring up the idea maybe of a family and you know, of closeness, but also to trigger you, specifically in the moments where you would have to snap out of the patterns of being the victim or the villain and actually create a new reality.
So when you are in that moment triggered and you're feeling somewhat not yourself, I could say, you know, stop for a moment, like people say, breathe, go to your heart. These are all ways, for sure. You know, taking 2 conscious breaths will certainly be more effective than doing nothing and just being in that pain body, or, you know, in that place with your family. But it's very difficult when you're in that moment and it's already taken over. So if it's already taken over, it's got to that point where you know you've lost control, then it means that you need to really address it at its core. So for this moment that happened with me and my sister, and, you know, all these things have happened many years ago. In that moment, it got the better of me. So I need to do what I need to do to best prepare so that, you know, my home, my environment is not affected. So what does that mean? Well, this is real time. It may mean for me to confront it, to confront that part of myself, that there is something there, to confront your family member, for me, my sister, to actually talk to her and address it, my feelings of what is going on for me when I'm around her, and for her to then express herself and to actually have a real authentic conversation so that we don't keep repeating the same pattern or trigger, because it's just there to highlight that there is work to be done. If that person is willing to reciprocate and actually have a conversation, of course. If the other person isn't, then it could just mean more drama.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of people have a negative connotation when it comes to the word confrontation, because somehow in the back of the mind that means conflict. Confrontation, when it's been addressed as an expression, and you changing it from focusing on another person and making it about them, and you are internalizing your feelings by owning them, by basically saying, well, I'm here to express how I feel. Like Tony Robbins says, when I was watching his I'm Not Your Guru show, he says that, you know, when you're busy blaming your family members for all the bad stuff that has happened to you, for, you know, the traumas and the negative feelings and also the patterns that you have inherited, why don't you also blame them for the good things that have happened to you? Because there's always two sides of the same coin. As much as there is the trauma and the negativity, there is the opposite side of it that has made you a person that perhaps has sought you to become more relatable towards others and being able to understand their trauma as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about confrontation. It's like, when people, as you said, confrontation has a bad connotation to it. It means confronting somebody because you think you're right,
Yeah.
and you want to make them wrong. It's not about confronting them so that you feel right and them wrong, because no love lives there. It's about confronting yourself, that there's something there and you want to bring it to them, so that that part of yourself can then really touch in the core of that person, because you're not bringing to them, I'm right and you're wrong, because it's just going to get you further away from what you actually want, which is a resolve and a loving relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, the hardest thing is to confront yourself and actually point at yourself. That is the hardest thing. It's so much easier to point at them going, well, they did this, and because they are that, and that, because you don't want to look at yourself as the one who is responsible for their own feelings and emotions that came up. It's like they're the ones, it's their fault. But there's no power there. And if you want to reclaim your power and reclaim your life and make it the best life you possibly want, then you need to confront that part of yourself and go, wow, okay, it's there. And by having that conversation, just by you being raw and true of yourself, will bring that part of you, that small part that, you know, your inner child has been really hurting.
That's beautiful. And you know, when you keep in mind that we don't need to convince anybody of anything. We have nothing to prove. We have nothing. We don't need them to understand us. No. But because in the end of the day, you're not doing it in hopes of having to change their mind, right? Because we cannot change other people's minds by any means, but to be an example. Otherwise, it's a manipulation, and we'll do a video on manipulation another time. But when it is coming from this moment of owning yourself and just speaking your truth, because your truth is the most authentic self-expression, right? So when you allow yourself to speak your truth without pointing fingers at anyone, it's nobody's fault. You know, they're just there as your teachers. They're just there to highlight the things that need most love. And you go, thank you. There is this practice that has been shared with me recently that I have now adopted. Before going to bed, you set yourself an intention of calling back all the parts of yourselves that are out there that you haven't called back yet. So you open up a channel to, I don't know, to your higher self, to your angels, ascended masters, to God, whatever works for you. It's really up to you, the universe. You open up the channel and you ask to claim back the healed parts of yourself, to bring them back to you while you sleep. When you do that practice every night and you claim back the parts of yourself, you call the parts of your soul back, you then reestablish a more wholesome connection with yourself, because you acknowledge yourself as whole and complete every night, bringing back your wholeness. So that's one way to deal with it. Another thing about the art of being present in the present moment, you know, as we said before, your most resourceful creative state is being in the moment now, without expectations of the future or regrets of the past. And that moment can bring you in. When you are in nature, you can go into that moment. When you are with children, they have a beautiful ability of being present in the moment. You find that just half an hour, 15 minutes, 10 minutes a day of doing meditations in the morning will bring you in the resourceful state for the rest of the day. Just that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour of your self-love and presence with yourself will be able to set the tone, even for when you are speaking to people who always bring you out of it.
I think I'd like to say, like, you know, 15 minutes in the morning will set you up for the day, but I'm not sure how true that actually is.
Okay.
I would say, you know, it can help create a buffer, but it's like the willpower. Like, depending on how many stresses are on that day, or demands or triggers, it will kind of create that buffer for a time, but then, you know, you need to practice it throughout the day, depending on what the demands are, depending on your environment at the time. And it's unique to everybody, right? I mean, not everyone has their own way. I mean, we're fortunate we have like literally dogs running around and children. So that really does help. You know, sometimes you find yourself, even you got everything you need, it becomes over-empowering, you know, the triggers. And it takes you out of the present moment. You're like, what else do I need? Like 20 puppies around me? Come on. So it's like, you know, you do your very best, and we're all doing our best all the time. And I would say, you know, doing this will certainly put you in a better place than if you're not doing it and you're not having these rituals, because you need to best prepare yourself. It's like a stoic way of thinking. When you are triggered and it's that extreme, it's to confront yourself about that issue and bring it to the surface. We'd love for you to be present. We'd love to hear your feedback and tips and what works for you. We always want to hear from you guys, to just to interact and know that we're not alone out there, that other people have these issues too.
Well, we have made a conscious commitment to make these videos as much about our personal experience as possible, because only that way can we actually pass on from firsthand the lessons, the energies that we manage to heal or transform. So it's not always easy to be talking about things that are close to heart. These videos are a lot more, they're a little bit more raw for us to speak out, because we're living what we're speaking in the present moment right now. But at the same time, this is the art of being present, you know, living it despite the fact that we're going through it. We want to be present with our own feelings and being transparent enough to be able to share them with you guys, because that means we are contributing as well as we are growing, and that means all of our needs are satisfied, and hopefully the same way will work for you and will inspire you to do the same thing. Because speaking your truth about things that matter the most to you is the hardest thing you can do in the world, especially to people who know you well, but it is the most healing thing you can do, because that way you allow yourself to be present with your feelings, with your emotions and with your traumas, and, you know, transform them in the present moment.
Yeah, and if, you know, this is a thing that we need to collectively do as humanity, because if we don't resolve these traumas and pains, we give it to our children, they pass it on, they pass it on. We need to collectively heal this so that we can all raise the level of consciousness on this planet, so we have less pain, less of this trauma, which, you know, comes out in people's behavior. And, you know, hurt people want to hurt people at the end of the day. So the more you practice these rituals that Julia was saying, the more you confront yourself that these issues are there, the more you seek help, the less of that will give out there into the world. And hopefully, you know, we'll be the more harmonious humanity.
Well, first of all, thank you for being brave. And speaking your truth on the camera and being so raw and so honest about your experiences.
Yeah, that was not easy to do it when you're, especially when it's just happened the night before. We're not like hiding behind something and somebody else is this or something. You know, we're just human.
That's beautiful.
And we're not afraid to jump. You know, we're not afraid to go into it. We wouldn't hide away from it. We know it needs to be confronted, not just for ourselves, but for the other person, because that's the love. That's the love, to not hide and just go, oh, look, let's wait for, you know, that person to go.
And then, you know what, love transcends all. You know, when you go into your heart and you go back to the moments when you realize you really still love that person, you love that person, and then you can put all the past behind you and always start from a new slate when you bring yourself back to love. And that's what we'd like to leave you guys with, you know. Whenever it's the difficult times, whenever you're challenged, whenever you're triggered, bring yourself back to love. First and foremost, self-love. And self-love will spread like wildfire towards the people that are around you, because they will have the same permission to love themselves unconditionally.
Yeah, love yourself, love the other person, and it really does dissolve all of those triggers and all that pain. It just goes like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us, guys.
Thank you, guys. Much love.
Much love. Bye.